So in that context, I'd like to confront a topic. I was reading an article over the weekend, and I'm always reading about things uh, in the context of culture and international perspectives, and the time that we're in right now. And it's interesting because here we are, kind of an international trio here, right? Richard's right now in New York. I'm in California. Elena, you're in Germany right now, right?
Yeah.
And we've all lived and worked abroad and everything. And the context is kind of making a little bit of a distinction, because we talk about the possibilities and the light and the love and the power and what it can be. What's coming to my mind is the distinction of the culture that has been created in America. It was an article about the culture of capitalism in the United States, and how it's created an implication that is not favorable with other countries, and the rest of the world. Because, you know, I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit some of the words that were used, is that apparently the general consensus of Americans is that they are generally self-serving, selfish, greedy, short-sighted, and that's all flowing from the implication of capitalism and greed. Just wanting to, and then of course you look at leadership these days, and it's kind of a leadership of heavy-handed, oppressive, overbearing, and stepping on other people to be able to get what you want, right? And that was, I think, there was a lot more to it in the context of this article and this analysis. But I'd like to kind of maybe confront that and address it around what you all see in the context of international perspectives, especially you, Elaine. I mean, you're in Germany now. You've lived in Japan. What is what from your perspective? What's the global perspective of enculturation, specifically as people look and see America in the context of this conversation? What do you see?
Oh gosh, Chris, that's a huge question. I'm thinking, because usually it's such a big question, it's hard for me to know how to sit with it. So I kind of go the other way. And I look at what's around me to try to figure out how to be in that. So Richard, I want to think on this in a second. Richard, do you have anything to toss in here?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, I haven't been traveling for a little bit, but certainly, I can only imagine that things have gotten even even worse. But that the view of internationally of how people view Americans, certainly what you said, I mean, there's some truth to it. Americans have this kind of arrogance, when they travel and expect things to be at their beck and call, sort of, so to speak, especially, just, it's just in general. I mean, it's not everyone, of course, but there's a general consensus that, the world feels that way. And yes, I guess it's part of the whole capitalistic, nature that America has about it. And, at the same time, it's also a beautiful thing too, so the world kind of appreciates that about America, the fact that, you can go there and, coming from absolutely nothing, and you can be someone, who gain all kinds of material, gains, and, spiritual, awakening. You can really change your life in incredible ways. And that is not very easy to do, or possible in other countries around the world. So it has two sides to it. It's people appreciate that, and but there's also the, just like anything else, we live in this world is always is binary. There's always going to be the good, and there's always going to be the other side of it. So people just have to wake up to that, and the quicker we can wake up to that, it's the better off we are. I mean, there's places in Europe, where it's the socialist, it's calm, and everything is just sort of, for example, a friend of mine speaks about Denmark, which is beautiful. Love living there, and it's everything is sort of even keel. But at the same time, it doesn't have that kind of fire that, to really go for it, like it does in America. There's this sort of fire underneath that, if you don't get up and go get it, it just doesn't happen for you. You have to kind of go get it. That's the capitalistic way. And if I can just add one more thing to it, is that, the time that we're moving into as well, even though it's, the quote, Aquarian sort of age that we're kind of getting closer to stepping into, um, and from a design perspective, it's we're moving into a time that's really, it's a kind of a selfish time, where it's, the rise of the individual. It's about the individual waking up to their own authority, to be able to take responsibility, to be, better contributors to the whole, and so there's a little bit of a kind of a selfishness edge to that, you know and but it's not just America. It's all around the world. It's what's the background frequency that we're moving into. And how can we step in as an individual, as a sovereign individual, to contribute into wherever we're going, to our business, into our groups, but to stand that way and to really bring what you have, to really show up with confidence in yourself. This is kind of what's waking up. And so um, yeah, I think that's what our job is, to help shine that light as we step into that place ourselves, is to help bring that to other people as well, and to remind them of that, but because not everyone's going to be on that way of thinking, on that plane, because people's survival is so predominant that, when you concerned about how you're going to have your next meal, or to diapers for your baby, the survival thing, it takes away from, especially with pains and aches and pains and injuries and stuff. It's difficult to really to focus on awareness, to really become aware, because your mind is focused on the pain and the suffering. So yeah, I see this as certainly as my job, and what we're doing here is what we call light beings, right? So